Continuing part 3, the story of the scroll, the path of evolution, the 12 and the 13. The king agrees with Haman's argumentation. The king of half the world thinks Haman's argument logical, and he confirms it with the law of the Medes and Persians. This is to be the way of development. It is now the 13th of the first month, the month of Nisan. Therefore, it is fixed. In the 12th, it has to be done. When the aspect of the 12 will come to life, then it will be done. In that year of the Megillah, the year has 13 months. Then the month of Adar is a double. Happenings would take place in the 12th month. It is true, but as it is, because it counts double in the 13th. Since it is now the 13th of Nisan, it will happen on the 13th of Adar. Have we not got here a breakthrough of the 12 that Haman swears by? There is something particular with the 12, even with the 12 sons of Jacob, who actually were 13. And now here, accidentally, it is the 13th of Nisan and the second month of Adar, the 13th month. The king's ring. From the palace, everything is arranged now. The world would not have any Jehudim in the end. No Ivri would survive that time. They would all merge in time, be swallowed by time, just as Moses had been swallowed. Moses, too, would be seen as temporal phenomenon in the 12, as an interesting part of antiquity, which development could at any rate look down upon, either approvingly or disapprovingly. The king gives Haman his ring to seal these laws with, that they might be administered according to the seal of Ahasuerus. The word for ring in Hebrew is closely related to the word for nature. Whoever gets the ring gets power over nature, over what is called natural law. The ring bears the seal. With the king's hand, things are sealed. The seal is unalterable. It even seals the same pattern. Similarly, there is God's seal on creation. A king has a seal. There is invariableness, certainty with the king. So what has to be sealed with the ring of Ahasuerus has got the pattern of the world of Ahasuerus. Now Haman will be able to make a natural law of the destruction of the Jehudim. Natural law is one side of existence. It is the half which Ahasuerus rules. It is the side which is called the din, right, justice, law. According to ancient lore, it is the left-hand side. It is necessary for the existence of creation. It is through this left-hand side that development is effected, that there is growth, reproduction. It is, however, only one of the two sides. Ahasuerus merely rules one half, and he pretends it is all. The other side is that which is called the Rahamim. It is what causes natural law to be accorded a place in the totality. Din is like the tree that makes fruit. Rahamim is like the tree that is fruit and makes fruit. Rahamim has to do with the womb. It is called compassion, so it really means whatever the law may state. I act according to household rules from a different dwelling, and that is how Rahamim can break through Din, can eliminate it, give it a different direction. Rahamim is on the right-hand side. Rahamim is the ultimate standard, just as there ultimately comes the temple, the place where Rahamim lives, just as ultimately there is the tree of life, the tree in fact, that is the tree which is fruit and makes fruit. The Rahamim disturbs the course of events in a world which puts its faith exclusively in Din. The world is eager to stack its faith in Din, for Din causes that which gives man the impression that he can also learn from reading and studying, and that he will be able to apply it according to those fixed rules. It is typically the tree of knowledge, which through the serpent, through the force of development, through Amalek, gives the promise. You can become like God. You really do not need God. You can take things into your own hands. God really is not so important. That is why Amalek is against the temple, i.e., against the idea that God interferes perceptibly with life. Amalek wants to push that away, and in the world of the exile, he comes to the point where man merely sees natural law, merely what he might eventually do himself, what he can understand anyway. And what you can understand, you dominate. It has made itself known to you. Amalek is the born enemy, the enemy created, the enemy of all that disturbs this feeling. He tests the other on his possibilities of acting gratuitously. That is why man eats of the tree of knowledge. That is why Haman has been created in those words after the eating of that tree, the words, "have you." That is what the world is for. By and in spite of Amalek, man can be made to act divinely and to partake of the meal with God. Therefore, Ahasuerus is eager to listen to Amalek. He does not like to be disturbed by that other. It only makes his world so uneasy, it obscures the clearness of those attractive natural laws. He has Esther for his wife and is not aware of the fact that the very woman he has chosen for his own is from the other side. The wisdom of the world. That is why, right at first, Ahasuerus feels distressed about Haman's scientific argument. It is the question about the Jehudim, those people acting differently, those people thinking differently, quite so simple. The world that chose Esther for its consort, although not knowing who she was, but felt attracted by her wonderful appearance all the same, that world has these objections. In the human individual, too, these objections exist. Once the dramatic episode of Vashti is over and Esther has entered the palace. Ahasuerus reminds Haman of God's words in human history. Over there, in that faraway world, God has evidently had something to do with these Jehudim, these others. Looking back across big distances, there must have been something. But Haman, speaking his own mind, can only point out that this God was at the moment fast asleep anyway, that he was not reacting anymore. Ancient lore has much to say about it. When in the translated text, Haman says, there is a certain one, people 3:8, the Hebrew words at the beginning of that sentence, the word yeshno, may be read as he sleeps, and the concept one, the word ehad, also refers to God, Deuteronomy 6:4. Thus, the Hebrew text can also be read as the one sleeps, God sleeps, which is a slightly more decent variant of the modern saying God is dead. Haman does indeed speak like this, and considering his mentality, he really speaks in perfect good faith. For God is never perceptible to the forces of development. They can at best take it that in olden times, in the state of particular lack of development, man in his fear and ignorance imagined something like a God and ascribed all kinds of things to that God, and that therefore this God exercised great influence on man. But that was long since. It has passed now, and such a thing plays no role anymore. At present, such sentiments would only impede further development. At present, those sentiments should really be eradicated. And if there are people who, owing to their strange, unmodern nature, could not get rid of those sentiments, then these people should be silenced, either through tuition and information, or else through actual, even physical destruction in prisons, asylums, camps, reserves, or through further measures. At any rate, now it could not be tolerated any longer. Owing to the successes of development, which the forces of development, emancipated as they are, ascribe to themselves, they continue in a condition of intoxication. They live in a dream world. The wine has been increasing its effect. The serpent's poison acts to full capacity. To such minds, history, the further back it lies, seems so underdeveloped, so primitive that modern man simply cannot be suspected of suffering from such atavistic sentiments. It would be an insult to him. Modern man reads history for the sake of enjoying his own immense development all the more. To him, there are dark Middle Ages and a youthful, fresh present time. At times, he is even tolerantly inclined to pat the past on its back, if admittedly in primitive terms, those people prove to suspect the existence of what nowadays properly reflected on and worked out by psychology, hygiene, or whatever deity else is thoroughly known. To Haman's mind, God, the One, has sunk into deep slumber. In this way, Haman argues with Ahasuerus, and Ahasuerus listens. It sounds so sweet, so alluring. Ancient tradition has it that God speaks to Haman, saying that his opinion about God sleeping is utterly unreal, entirely the effect of Haman's development intoxication. For it is especially on behalf of such minds and such conditions of man and mankind that the word of God says, "Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep." Psalms 121:4. Besides, will not the course of the world be completely reversed when the king cannot sleep? Esther 6:1. That night suddenly sleep refuses to come to the king. Ancient tradition points out that it is not King Ahasuerus that is mentioned here, but merely the king, and that here, first and foremost, God is referred to. The only thing is that in the story of Esther, God is hidden. Haman himself will experience what it means if one identifies God's appearance in history with sleep. Indeed, God hides himself so that Haman may grow in order to have development take place to the utmost limit. Psalms 92:6-9. But this is not identical with sleep. Ancient tradition here also points at Psalms 78:65-66, but Haman actually thinks it is so, and in that sense, he influences Ahasuerus. In the end, Ahasuerus wants to come to a decision, yet he first wants to hear all the wise men of his whole realm. The wise men, those that have studied the times and those that have investigated all phenomena, refuse to have anything to do with Haman's purpose. They think that neither world nor individual man can exist without this phenomenon of the Jehudim, without the Ivri. History has proved, they think, that people cannot harm the Ivri unpunished. The Ivri pertains to man, to the world. Complete eradication of the Ivri in man and the world would be catastrophic. But Haman argues anew, and the gist of this argument is that all this is obsolete. To be sure that God is ancient, a graybeard, devoid of strength. Look, where is the catastrophe for the world after Nebuchadnezzar's destruction of the temple? God did not react at that time, did he? And he did not merely because he is old and weak, past history. This argument appeals to the wise men of the nations. They are susceptible to development. It flatters their self-respect. Indeed, that God does not seem to react to the destruction of his perceptibility in man and in the world. And ever since his influence has disappeared indeed. Really strange, really interesting, the wise men think. What does such a world of God hiding so that the world may come? For such a world, it is only their own actions that count. They destroy the temple. They destroy God's influence in man and in the world. They know nothing of God's works, owing to which the temple is no more, owing to which God's influence is not perceptible anymore, let alone that they should realize the why and wherefore of all this. The wise men nod their heads. The world of development wins the day. Without any risk to the world, the Ivri may be eradicated. Let this be the development. Indeed, God seems to be an ancient affair, superannuated, non-reacting. If he permits a matter of principle such as the removal of the temple, he no longer exists as reality. Then he is really dead. Thus Haman gets the ring. In this way, the world can set to work in order to eradicate all that remains of that other, through development, through historicizing God and the Torah. That other will be reduced to ashes. In the end, it will not be there anymore. Then the way will be free.